senses.
Oh, are we doing ASMR now? Because I can crack every knuckle on my hand. Watch.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah.
Anyway, my name is Chase. I'm Garrett.
All right, that's enough of that. As much as I would love to do a whole ASMR stream with you guys, I feel like our listeners may have to turn their volume up, and that could be detrimental. Anyway, how are you guys doing? It's been a minute.
I'm doing great. Been just, chilling, relaxing, trying to enjoy time as I can. What about you, Garrett?
I'm just pretty much trying to get by life, mostly just being fun, I guess. Like just kind of doing stuff and working with this podcast, and really it's been a blast, I just want to say.
Oh yeah, also a question for you guys. You guys ever get into the Predator movies?
The first two,
not really.
Original and the not New York, LA.
Oh, have you heard of the new one that they got out, Prey?
Yeah. I
watched it the other day, and it's actually really good. The cinematography in there is amazing.
Isn't it like Predator set like with Native Americans or something like that?
Yeah, it's back like 300 years ago. I think it takes place in 1716.
In Virginia.
There was a comic line that was like that as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the first one was really the only one worth watching, and I'd say now with Prey out is an additional one that's worth watching.
Yeah, I've always liked Predator from a design standpoint. I think Predators are really cool aliens. I just feel like there's a lot of the movies have always been kind of underwhelming. Like you compare it to, say, the Alien series, and okay, maybe not exactly the best example because everyone loves the first two Alien movies. After that, it kind of gets very touch and go. I mean, I personally thought Alien 3 was good for what it was.
Yeah, I go up to the first three.
Prometheus, I thought, is alright for what it is.
All right.
I don't know what the consensus is on Prometheus these days, but I thought Prometheus, I enjoyed it when I watched it. Granted, I was like 14 when the last time I saw it, so may have to get back to you on that.
Believe it or not, the only movies that I've actually seen that is actually the first Predator movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Anything else that you're referencing, I am a total blank, man.
I mean, you watched what people consider to be the best one.
The first Predator?
Yeah.
I only watch the best, baby, the best.
The best of the best.
So you know how Alien and Predator, the whole crossover between those two, right?
Yeah, the Alien vs. Predator movie.
Yeah, I always thought if they were to bring a third IP in the Terminator series, imagine Alien versus Predator versus Terminator.
Could they really do anything against the Terminator, though?
I think Predator can.
Yeah, maybe.
Also, xenomorphs, their blood is acid. I think that would at least harm a Terminator if it gets close enough.
Fair enough point.
It'd make them rust out a little bit.
Yeah, like imagine a T-1000 going up against a Predator and a whole army of xenomorphs.
That'd be a cool thing to watch.
Yeah, I'd watch that anime.
Hey everyone, Editor Chase here, just chiming in to point out that yes, Alien vs. Predator vs. Terminator was in fact a real thing. It was a comic series published by Dark Horse in the year 2000. I think I actually knew about that comic line, but I forgot it was a real thing in the moment when we were recording, and I was probably just remembering it subconsciously. So that's my bad, apologies.
Best anime.
Something about the T-1000 in Terminator 2, when it extends its arms into those claw praying mantis-like hooks, something about that's just very aesthetically pleasing to me. Maybe it's just how symmetrical it is, but I just think that's a really intimidating yet very sleek and cool look to a Terminator.
Yeah, I haven't watched any of the movies yet. I really want to. I just haven't gotten around to getting the chance to.
Yeah, I just recently rewatched the first two for the first time since, like, middle school, and I think they hold up surprisingly well. Well, the second one does. The first one is very much of the early 80s, but Terminator 2 Judgment Day, yeah, that movie holds up phenomenally well. It is a masterpiece for a reason.
I'm definitely gonna have to watch them at some point.
Well, other than fun little movies and all that, what are we here today for, Zaid?
Yeah, great point, Garrett. We are here to talk about a beloved game from my childhood for the Wii, Spectrobe Origins.
That's right, Spectrobe Origins, the third entry in the Spectrobe series, released in North America on August 18th, 2009 for the Wii, like you said. developed by Genki and published by Disney Interactive Studios.
Which makes them all technically Disney characters.
Kingdom Hearts crossover when?
Did you know, actually, speaking of Kingdom Hearts, Jupiter, the first developer for the very first Spectrobes back in 2007, was actually the one who made Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories.
Yeah, the DS one?
Yeah.
Predestined.
Yeah, and really, I can see the influence in terms of the gameplay and the fighting. You gotta admit, this is kind of like a predecessor of Dream Drop Distance. You know how you have like those different creatures you can kind of like summon?
The combat in this game definitely does take a lot of DNA from Kingdom Hearts. It being a hack and slash with, I would say Spectrobes is Kingdom Hearts, but if it was more Pokemon than Final Fantasy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do get that. Plus, there's a little bit more, like, idea in trying to switch weapons, because, like, from my idea of, like, playing Kingdom Hearts, I'd always find, like, my favorite Keyblade and just, like, use that the entire time. Where in Spectrum Origins, they have, like, different types of weapons of different strengths and elements that you want to use against different creatures to, like, get that extra advantage.
Yeah, I mostly just stuck with the sword, though, just because it was very fast and did enough damage, but there were a few enemies where you have to use, like, an axe or hammer on.
Yeah, because they have those, like, shielded things, like the little crab dudes.
Out of curiosity, Zaid, we know your history with Spectrobes, but what about you, Garrett? What's your history with Spectrobes?
Actually, this is my first time ever hearing about Spectrobes. I was introduced to it, actually, by Zaid when I saw it recommended on our list. And really, it's a game I really wanted to play. So it was kind of hard for me to really get the game because, one, my Wii was back up at my parents' place, which is 2 hours away. And really, all I could do was just watch some videos and look at some wikis.
Well, next time we get a chance, if you can ever get your Wii back or whatever, back to your place, and the next time we end up hanging out, I can make sure I have the copy on hand. You can borrow it for a bit to actually play it yourself.
Oh boy, we're really getting somewhere, boys.
Yeah.
Now that's just pure friendship right there. You gotta find yourself a bro that'll lend you their copy of Spectrobe's Origins on Nintendo Wii. Otherwise, it's not true friendship.
I must share it with all.
As for me, yeah, same with you, Garrett. This is the first time I've ever heard of this series before when Zaid brought it up. But yeah, I really did like my time playing with this. I dusted my old Wii off and gave it a good playthrough, and yeah, I think that this game is a pretty solid experience. It's a hack and slash RPG on the Nintendo Wii. Don't go in expecting a completely revolutionary masterpiece or anything, but for what it is, I enjoyed my time with it. I do have my share of criticisms of the game, mostly the boss fights, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah, I mean, I can mention my history a little bit with it in the sense, like, it was one of my first Wii games that I ever owned, because little me, like, begged, like, my grandparents to, like, buy me a Wii. And so we eventually go there, and I gotta get some games for it, of course, and I pick up the Wii that was bundled with Wii Sports, and I end up picking up a Wii Play, and then this game as well. And it was just a random game on the shelf for, like, I think, like, $20. So I take it home, and I play, and this was always, like, my go-to game to play, because it was just fun.
The art style is really appealing. It's got that, cartoonified anime look to it that I feel like a lot of games around this time had. I feel like games like Wizard 101 or Cartoon Network's Fusion Fall kind of look like this. Remember that game?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were really cool, but I gotta say, the designs of these Spectrobes is really the key selling point for me.
I really like the Aztec Mayan influence in the Spectrobes themselves. Like, Aztec dinosaurs is the best way I would describe a lot of the Spectrobes.
And I think that, like, ancient look to them fits in really well with, like, what the Spectrobes are, because they are supposed to be this ancient, extinct, like, species that you're kind of bringing back to life through the fossil, like, revival system in the game and / excavation system to help you fight against the big enemy, the Krawl, in this.
The Krawl, led by Crux, because alliteration.
Crux being... I really like Crux's design. I think he looks pretty cool, especially, like, growing up. I thought he was, like, the coolest, badass-looking character ever.
He looks like a mix between Kylo Ren and Yokai, the villain from Big Hero 6.
That's fair.
With a little bit of Ansem thrown in as well.
Yeah. He does have a very Final Fantasy feel to him.
Especially the way his, like, hair behind him. That's just super Final Fantasy design right there.
You can see Disney Interactive tried to get some more of that Final Fantasy fan base, or at least get them into it. Maybe it's like a gateway into Kingdom Hearts. I don't know.
Who knows?
But either way, the Spectrobe's combat looked really cool too.
It does, although as someone who did play this game, I can tell you it does get kind of annoying and tiresome at certain points because, alright, let's rip this Band-Aid off. This game is on the Wii, and like most games on the Wii, you gotta deal with bullshit motion controls that really don't feel necessary, but you gotta do them anyway.
Yes.
In order to command your Spectrobes, you gotta flick the Wii nunchuck, and it's not the most demanding action, alright? But look, I work out, alright? Do you have any idea how hard I press WASD every night?
Flickering my wrist is too much. It gets tired.
You mean I gotta exercise to play these games? I play games specifically to avoid doing that.
And there's also like this special ability thing too, where you gotta like do like the X over your chest.
Yeah, you gotta cross your arms with the nunchuck controller in order to use your Spectrobes.
Then do a Superman move.
I'd like to make a counterpoint, is that this is very much a game more curated towards a younger audience, and as a kid, I found the controls and stuff like that fun, because you're just a kid having fun playing a game on the Wii. So it's like, that works a bit more, where, of course, as you get older, it's like, you're tired of that gimmick.
Oh yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. The Wii, at the time, motion controls were just mind-blowing as a kid. It's like, whoa, you mean I control everything directly? It's like I'm in the game, bro! It's just, you know, looking back on it, now that we are several console generations past the Wii and motion controls have more or less died out, it's just kind of a bit of a nuisance to go back to. It's like every time I boot the Wii up, I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta deal with this for a while.
Oh yeah, and then the fact that like you gotta deal with the glitchy like cursor with the sensor bar and shit.
Honestly, the motion controls weren't that bad. They were just annoying, but nothing too game-breaking. The only issue was using the shield, though. You gotta flick the nunchuck up in order to use the shield, and I swear, it just did not work for me half the time.
I almost never use the shield.
Yeah, half the time I would try to raise the shield to block an incoming attack, and it just would not register.
Yeah, so my main thing was dodge roll. Infinite dodge roll. That's all I did. I Dark Souled this.
Those iframes. That's how you really play. If there's a dodge roll, you gotta abuse that.
I almost never went up to attack like the bosses or anything like that, because you die, it's over. So I was just constantly like sending my Spectrobe at it and just like constantly dodge rolling in a circle around the map.
Well, the problem with that strategy is you gotta keep commanding your Spectrobe to keep attacking, because I swear, they would only take a few swings at an enemy, and then they would just give up, so you would have to command them to attack again. And God forbid if they miss and you gotta restart the whole thing over again.
Yeah, I mean, I never had too much issue with doing that. I mean, sure, I get the annoyance, but it's like, it just felt like just a neural thing, just kind of flick the remote while keep on dodging. Just keep a lock onto it so your camera's always focused on the boss.
It's basically Pokemon if you could directly command the Pokemon in battle. And you could also beat up other people's Pokemon yourselves as well. It's like if Ash just took a baseball bat and was like, well, wave goodbye to your kneecaps, Chucklehead.
It's like how Pokemon would realistically be. It's like, just goes up to a Pidgey, it's like, get in the fucking ball, just beating the crap out of Pidgey.
Kind of like trying to stuff a huge bag of toilet paper down the toilet, like into the Pokeball. They're just like smashing it in there.
Mommy, that guy broke my Pidgey.
But to like explain the game a bit more, you kind of start off with your cutscene of just like that your two main characters, Rallen and Jeena, like getting ready because there's the alarm going off. You gotta go against the Krawl, and then they get in their ship, get sucked in a wormhole, and get stranded off in an unknown solar system, and have to go to a planet that they get a SOS signal from. Terra.
Yeah. Wait, we're forgetting Rallen and Jeena, they had a third companion, the first Spectrobe, that red koala-looking buddy. What was his name?
That dude.
It's like Koma Inu, I believe.
Yeah, Koma Inu.
Yeah, that sounds better.
Yeah, it's this adorable, like, red koala on a puppy's... It's like if you took a koala's head and put it on a puppy's body, and I think it's cute. I really like the little noises he makes. It's very Pikachu-like, its voice.
Yeah. I never evolved him.
You want to know what Koma Inu's design was inspired by? The lion dogs from China.
Oh.
Yeah, I can kind of see it.
Yeah.
I saw it more as a koala, but lion dog, yeah, I definitely see it now.
And then also, like, a fun fact is that after you beat the game, you get, like, I think a silver or gold version of it.
Ah, the shiny version.
Yeah, there's, like, a whole New Game Plus, and you get, like, an extra, like, boss battle in the New Game Plus.
Is it like the same boss battles, or is it a little different?
You kind of go through, and the game doesn't play out the same, but you get, like, the same boss battles, stuff like that, and then there's, like, one extra boss that gets thrown in there.
Here's a little extra for playing this the second time.
It's always appreciative when a game does that, you know, a new game plus that's worth checking out.
I mean, in the end, the New Game Plus isn't really that big of a deal, and you don't miss a whole lot by not doing it.
Honestly, I rarely play a new game plus for most games. Like, I'm of the mind that when I finish a game, I'm done with it. I try to do as much as I can in my first playthrough. Like, I try to do as many side quests as possible. I try to go for as close to completion as I can on my first playthrough. I won't finish a game until I've gotten the most out of it that I can. So, when a new game plus comes up, I'm like, I mean, I've already had my fill of this game.
Yeah, so unless there's, like, some new reason.
I mean, you completed Elden Ring.
I did 100% Elden Ring. That is true. One of the few games I've platinumed, but I mean, with the DLC coming out eventually, oh no, my record, it's going to be like Hollow Knight all over again.
But yeah, with New Game Plus for me in games, I'm kind of in the same headspace. I do as much as I can in my first playthrough. I really only do a New Game Plus if there's legitimately, like, other stuff to do after you've already beaten the game.
Right. If there's definitely something really interesting that's worth checking out, I'll do a New Game Plus. It's just, for the most part, when I finish a game, I'm like, I'm done for a while. Maybe down the line I'll come back and redo another playthrough, but yeah, when I'm done, I'm done. What about you, Garrett? What's your opinion on New Game Pluses?
So, I will say that there are some that are kind of cool, like, such as, like, Pokemon. You kind of have that gauntlet kind of thing. But I don't know. I feel like if you're going to give me that New Game Plus, you gotta give me a big reason to do it. Like, for example, Red Dead Redemption 2. Kind of like those types of stuff, I really love. And it makes me enjoy the game a little bit more, because it's, like, more lore and story. So that's really all I have to say about New Game Plus.
I'm just waiting for a game to have a New Game Minus, where on their second playthrough it has less content.
It's like, okay, you already did all these quests, you can't do them again. You have to do only stuff you didn't do before.
Let's talk about the main characters of this game, Rallen and Jeena.
Be careful, Rallen, your Sasuke's showing.
The moment he started talking, I was like, oh hey, it's Yuri Lowenthal, that's pretty cool. Although I gotta say, he's channeling more Ben Tennyson than Sasuke in this game.
Yeah.
He is displaying way more emotion in this game than he ever did in Sasuke.
Definitely.
Well, when Sasuke gets mad, that's what I get reminded of. Like, Naruto! Like, doing that little stuff.
Honestly, he's doing a pretty decent performance.
Mm-hmm. It's basically what you expect from such a renowned voice actor, to be honest.
Yeah, same with Jeena, who's voiced by, I believe, Wendy Lee. Same voice as Faye Valentine from Cowboy Bebop, I believe.
There's surprisingly a lot of, like, well-known, like, voice actors in this game, which makes it even more weirder that it's an unknown game to a lot of people.
Like, speaking of Naruto, Salia, the girl you meet on the Pandora Jungle World, that's Kate Higgins, aka Sakura.
And what's funny is that they do have that kind of, like, a little bit of, like, romance, like, feel between the two when they meet.
This is just how Sakura envisioned her life dating Sasuke. God, what's that catchphrase Rollins always say? And it's like, Ikuze!
It's like, Honki Ikuze, or something like that.
Yeah, it translates to here we go, or let's go, or something like that. But I'm just like, oh no, Rollins a weeb. He's just inserting random Japanese phrases.
Yeah, it does feel like that. And, you know, the sad thing with Jeena, though, is that though you can, like, it's nice that you can, like, switch characters to play as her if you want to.
I was gonna say, that's a really nice touch that you can swap between Rallen and Jeena at any time.
The issue is, the story definitely focused more around Ralland. Like, even playing as Jeena, like, it doesn't affect cutscenes, it's Ralland up front, and there he is.
I mean, it's the classic dynamic of the action hero guy who's also really arrogant and stubborn and immature, mixed up with the girl who's really smart and more strategic, but she's also petite and dainty and, oh, I'm just not gonna speak my mind or tell you what's going on. I'm just gonna roll my eyes at your clumsiness, tee-hee-hee.
And yell at you whenever you start doing something stupid.
Yeah, it's very cliche, and I don't know. I get it. It's a classic character dynamic, but it's just dime a dozen, you know? We've seen this dynamic done so many times before.
But it's enough for, like, kids and stuff like that, because it is, like, I think a rated E for 10 and up type game. So it's, like, for that age group. You can tell by the writing, it's kind of nice and simple, easy to understand. Nothing too, like, thought-provoking or anything like that.
Yeah, and to the game's credit, it's not like Jeena is completely sidelined. She does get a fair amount of screen time and contributes to the plot pretty well.
Yeah, which is nice compared to a lot of other games where the female side character just gets ditched.
You know what the character design really reminded me of? Shaman King.
I did look up Shaman King when you kind of mentioned this last week when we were talking about Spectrobe's designs, and I can kind of see it. It's definitely the hair, I want to say.
The character design definitely feels of that era, that early to mid 2000s toyetic shonen design. You know, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was like the Shaman King.
Mm-hmm.
Zack Bell, if anyone remembers that.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, they definitely feel like very, like, anime, like, esque inspired to, like, a lot of the character designs.
What'd you guys think of Rallen and Jeena as characters? Like, yeah, I think they're pretty serviceable. Again, they're not groundbreaking archetypes, but, you know, I wouldn't call them annoying. Like, Rallen's not annoying. Yeah, he's hot-headed and everything, but this archetype's been done worse than Spectrobes, I would say.
They're very one-note, but they're not, like, so one-note that they're boring. They're fun, entertaining characters, but there's not really anything special about them, nor are they really underwhelming either.
They're cliche and one note, but they're likable enough that they can get you through the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tell you who was an interesting character, though, the explorer you meet, Neil.
He was fun. I liked him. He's probably one of my favorite side characters in the entire game. You just start seeing him everywhere.
He is just Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. He's a coward, and he's always getting in over his head, but, you know, he's a good enough guy. He's always falling into tombs and crypts all the time. That's a fun little gag.
Yeah.
Yeah, Neil was a fun guy.
Yeah, almost anytime you run into a ruin, like on another planet too, like you'll see a cutscene, and then you'll hear him yell in the background, and, you know, it's like, you're gonna have to go find him somewhere.
There's also Rallen and Jeena's commander, Commander Grant, who, in the first half of the game, I was so sure was going to turn out to be Crux in disguise, because he is so shady in the beginning of the game. I was like, okay, that's the villain right there.
Yeah, they make it very obvious that he knows something, especially when, like, you show up in, like, the place, and it's like, well, as it reveals later on, like, in one of the first, like, flashback scenes, he was there at one point in the past, when he was a much younger and spry Commander Grant.
Yeah, but then it turns out he's actually trying to stop the villain. What?
Wow.
What a twist!
Maybe I just wasn't paying attention enough, but the actual twist surrounding Crux and who his identity was, I was actually a little bit surprised. Like, it's okay. It's not the most shocking twist ever, especially since there's only like 6 main characters in this game, but when it actually was revealed who Crux was, I was actually like, oh, he was the villain? That's cool.
Yeah, like you said, it's not the most surprising thing, but, like, little, like, young me playing this game, I found that to be like, holy crap, because then through a lot of those flashbacks, they were really building up a lot of suspicion and kind of pointing fingers towards Commander Grant the entire time.
It's a pretty solid red herring for a kid's game, you know?
Yeah.
It was hidden well enough, I will say.
So we know the main bad guy's Crux, and that one, the other guy reveals to be Crux. I don't remember what his name was supposed to be before they called him Crux, or was that always his name?
He was given a name. He was the old Spectrobe Master 30 years ago of the Kaio system, but who was he? This Griffith guy.
He's very Griffith-like. You mean from Berserk? And another thing about voice actors is that him in those flashbacks, that younger version of Crux, is the voice actor for Udio Ishida in the English voice acting of Bleach.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the excavation minigame. So when you're out exploring, your pet Spectrobe will dig up a mysterious box of, like, it's a fossil, but it's in a cube form.
Yeah, it's just like in this cube of like dirt that you gotta kind of like break through, and I enjoy doing that, but though my second time playing it, I'm like, I know how to play, let me skip this stupid tutorial. Like, I can do this faster and easier than the tutorial shows.
Yeah, that tutorial... The excavation tutorial is very handholdy, but it was a really therapeutic minigame, having to scrape all the dirt off of the fossils, then you get the blower to blow the last pieces off. There's the laser tool where you can trim a whole bunch. It was just a really relaxing, almost therapeutic minigame. And even though I know your score is based on time, so there is a little bit of a rush, but it shouldn't take you longer than just a minute or two.
Yeah, it's your score is based on time and also percentage of health. And I'm gonna say this real quick. I got to the point where I knew, like, I could read the name of, like, the thing and know exactly, like, where to place the bombs to, like, remove the most amount of material without damaging the Spectrobe before even scanning. Because when I first started playing, I would scan it, and then I'd choose where to put the bombs to, like, remove a bunch of material. But I got so used to it that I just look at the name and be like, I know where to put these bombs, I use the laser to get rid of all the access, and then use the drill a little bit, and it'd be done quickly, give me a perfect score.
You should have gone into archaeology.
I put a bomb on it! Where's my bombs?
I played Spectrobe's Origins. I got this.
I don't understand! I'm shaking it, but the hammer's not working!
Apparently, there are 90 different Spectrobe species in this game. And honestly, I never really changed out my 6 Spectrobes. Like, I thought the first 6 I came across, like, so there's 5 different types of Spectrobes. There's Earth, Air, Fire, Water, and Plant.
There's also Ice.
I thought that was water.
Well, yeah, no, it wouldn't be water then. It'd just be like an Ice type Earth or something like that, because that's more like...
So, like, it's fire, plant, water, earth, and sky.
Okay.
There's hot water and cold water. That's ice and water.
One expands, the other doesn't.
What is water but just hot ice? Yeah, but I just never really swapped out my first few Spectrobes because I didn't really have the need to. Once you filled out each type role plus an extra one, they get the job done. Like, I don't know. I know each Spectrobe probably has different stats and everything, but I just got through the game using the first handful I came across.
Yeah, and because I'm a bit of a completionist, though, I would never, like, leave a planet until I've gotten all the Spectrobes that are designated on that planet. Then I'd move to the next planet, finally. But, like, I'd just always make sure I'd have, like, one of each type in my inventory, but then eventually, well, inventory or on my, like, team. But then I started realizing that each area had, like, designated types on, like, the planet for the most part, and so I'd start trying to, like, fill out my team with a bunch of different Spectrobes of their counter. But, like, I tend to change my Spectro based on design because I'd be like, hey, I want to have this guy on my team. He's really cool. And so I'd, like, constantly switch it out.
Mm-hmm.
My two favorite one was, like, this, I think they both come from the ice planet later on, which was Kogiria or whatever however it's pronounced. Whereas, like, this, like, ancient, like, shipwreck dude, I think he comes from there. He just looks like a ship, like a ancient Egyptian, like, boat type dude.
There was one Spectrobe that were like 2 cats in the shape of slippers.
Yes, those weird...
I think it was like Butubasu or something like that.
They're just 2 slippers that sound like cats, like they meow and everything. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
There is that Pegasus Spectrobe that you unlock on the desert planet, Menahat. You need to summon it in order to defeat the boss of that planet. And after you defeat the boss, the Pegasus Spectrobe stays in your party that you can summon at any point, but I never used it outside of Menahat because the maps just weren't big enough to really justify using it. Like, I don't really need to move any faster. Like, the base walking run speed is sufficient.
Here's the thing, though. It was really good for, like, if you're, like, a completionist and you want to get all the, like, extra weapons and other stuff, because there were certain areas that only could cross because there was these, when you equipped it, there was, like, this gap, and there was, like, 2, like, posts at either side of the gap, and if you had the Pegasus, it would create a bridge that it could cross if you're riding it. And it was also central later on in the game against another boss fight that you had to fight went back to Witera, which is like this fake Crux guy who pretended to be Crux for a long time.
Right. I know that. I'm just saying outside of plot relevant areas, like when you're just wandering around the other planets and stuff, I just never found a use for it.
I was lazy and I'm like, I want this extra bit of speed.
More speed equals more better. That's just basic mathematics.
Yeah.
Well, Zaid, are there any other childhood memories you want to bring up while we're here? Go ahead, just spew your knowledge upon us.
Well, I mean, outside of, like, just what I've already said about the game, really all I have to say is, like, continuing on with the story, I guess. It's like, because after you, like, go through Witera, you save this group of people who are in these old ruins from the Krawl that's attacking them outside. And after you beat them, you go talk to them, you have their village elder and everything, and you go back to their village, and their village is definitely in shambles after the attack.
The village elder, Radis, I think his name is, this old wise guy. He's just very creepy, where it's like, yes, you can come to my house when you're done talking to the villagers. I have something to show you.
Yeah. But then there's also this one guy that I find very interesting, which is like the weaponsmith of the game.
Yeah, Kotetsu. I really like his way of speaking, his alliteration convention, where he'll say stuff like leapin' lizards or aardvarks and anvils, Dungeons and Dragons, oh shit.
He's definitely one of the most unique character designs in the game.
He feels very Toriyama-like, I have to say.
But yeah, of course you go through that, you get your tutorial of like finding minerals and also the fossils, but of course minerals being a thing that you can use to upgrade your Spectrobes faster outside of battle.
I'm just imagining Rallen and Jeena in the incubator with their Spectrobes. They're just shoving these minerals into their Spectrobes' mouths. Like, you are going to eat these minerals and you are going to like it.
Yeah, just have them in a chokehold and they just like, gotta make you stronger.
It's like trying to feed a pill to your dog or something and they really don't like it, so you just gotta headlock them and force feed them. It's for your own good.
Get this experience!
Jeena just pours like a bunch of peanut butter or whatever on the minerals and is like, here you go, little one.
I know this trick. Yeah, fooling me.
Oh yeah, that's right. You can pet the Spectrobes.
Yeah.
10 out of 10 game.
There's also like this whole like take a picture and like of like the Spectrobes and stuff like that while in the incubator.
Actually, I have a question for y'all. Like, so for all of the types of Spectrobes, which one is your favorite type?
I really like a lot of the plant types just because of how cool they looked. I mean, I really like the color green, and that's always a soft spot for me. But in terms of actual Spectrobes designs, I'd have to say the earth types were really cool. Like, I think the favorite Spectrobe I had in my party was the T-Rex looking thing. Like the
one that kind of looked like a Mayan temple guard kind of thing.
The guy with the horns or whatever on his...
Yeah, it looked like if you crossed a Mayan T-Rex with a forklift. That guy was really cool.
My favorites would have been like the water guys. I found them really cool looking. They felt like very more unique. They were more on the sleeker side too.
Oh yeah, you can evolve the Spectrobes from their baby form to their adult combat form. Reminds me of something.
There's like child form, there's like a middle form, and then there's like the adult form.
Well, there's the adult and then evolve form, they call it.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So yeah, it's adult then evolve. Okay.
I wish they called it like ancient or something like that. Just kind of like keep the vibe of it getting older.
Yeah.
Elder form. I did find it interesting that their baby forms are not used in combat, just their second and third forms.
Wow.
Like if you ever get into a fight with Krawl or whatever, the baby form that you had out earlier, they just disappear and you can't summon them. I thought that was an interesting take.
They're too cute to fight. And I mean, they do have, of course, their purpose. They're used to like gather like the little sparkle things that you find around the map, which give you your rice balls. Also, rice balls being your healing item. They look nothing like a rice ball, except for the shape, maybe.
Yeah, hey, what'd you find over there in the dirt? Oh, a rice ball? Yeah, I'm just gonna eat this later. It's just covered in ants and everything. My pet dug out of the ground.
It's gotta get that protein, bro. You need to pack a lot of rice balls to, like, go fight.
Oh, yeah.
There was, of course, minerals you would find, and there was, like, other special minerals, which eventually I would grind for, because I'd find, like, areas that tend to have a higher chance of dropping, like, certain types of minerals that I really wanted, like attack minerals to boost attack, defense, and and evolution crystals.
Yeah, the ice world you travel to I thought was a really good grinding spot.
Oh yeah, that was like one of the best ones for that kind of stuff. And also like the punching bag, like training things that you can get too. But also, I don't know if you noticed this, Chase, but there is also these like purple one sparkle things where if you hit those, you get like a purple mineral dodge show, and that would initiate a battle. Because I tend to grind games and stuff like that, I would always seek those out. But also, if you really want to, you can like, if it works for you, you can like tell them to like come back by flicking the remote back to yourself. Like in like a waving motion back to you.
You mean I gotta do more exercise?
Yes, you must exercise. This game is a secret game to make you fit.
I'm fit enough. I weigh 155 pounds.
Oh.
At least I'm pretty sure I do.
I weigh 190.
You guys have seen me. Guess how much I weigh.
Look, as long as you're healthy, that's all that really matters.
It doesn't matter because at the end of the day, we're all God's children and we're all beautiful. We're all sexy in our own way.
Well, that is true, but guess.
All right. So Zaid, what was your favorite planet to travel to? Because there are several planets that you travel to over the course of the game, and each one has a different environment. You got your standard ice world, desert, jungle world, lava fire zone. I have to say, I really liked Slayslow, the wasteland, Dark Souls looking world that just has a giant tower in it that so you arrive on this planet, and Jeena and Rallen look at this tower that's like stretching all the way up into the stratosphere. You can't even see the top. And Rallen's like, I'm pretty sure it's Rallen who says, wow, it's gotta be at least a mile tall.
I love that planet. Like, it's definitely one of my favorites. It's actually in a tie between that one and Kogiria, the ice world. Because I really like the ice world. I love the ruins in it. And also, it just has, like, this very, like, nice feeling to it. And also, some of my favorite Spectrobes are from that planet. Plus, grinding is, like, the best on it. Then Saleso being, like, so unique with that tower feature. Also, I love the robot, like, keepers that you meet there.
Yeah, Scout and Tidy, the janitor robots. They're just so lovely. Also, they are totally banging each other. I don't know how robots can have sex, but they found a way.
Oh yeah, he was so worried about, like, his friend who disappeared.
I know Tidy refers to Scout as just his friend, but I mean, come on, when you finally reunite them, they are very happy to see each other.
It is a very heartwarming and touching, like, thing having them reunite after, like, the end of it.
Yeah. Also, that spider boss, that was just the Gonark from Half-Life. Changed my mind. It is 1-to-1 the same design.
But it is a really cool, like, thing. Like, it looks like a giant satellite and then just reveals itself like, hey, I'm gonna fuck you up.
While we're here, we might as well talk about the boss fights. Zaid, Garrett, you guys go first, because I have some things to say about the boss fights.
The boss fights were repetitive.
Personally, I liked them. Yes, they were repetitive, because it really just came down to, like, attacking the big, glowy, yellow weak point. But I liked the different designs of them. I found them all to be very cool and unique in design. And plus, I've always been a sucker for, like, oversized, massive, cool bosses. So
Shadow of Colossus.
Yes, I love that game. And then other than that, it's like, yes, the fighting of them were very repetitive, and it was really just the same thing in the end every time, but I still really enjoyed them.
I will give them props that they are very interesting designs.
They all have different names, too.
Yeah, I don't think they're ever stated anywhere, but I did find out their actual names.
Yeah.
That being said, these are some of the worst boss fights I've ever experienced in gaming. I'm serious.
That's a fair take.
Let me put it this way. I have faced difficult boss fights. I have faced unfair boss fights. I have faced boring boss fights. The bosses in Spectrobe's Origins hit all three. They are difficult because they are way over-leveled compared to literally everything else you encounter in their respective zones. Like, I swear, they're like 50 levels higher than every other Krawl on the planet.
You didn't grind enough.
I would grind. I would leave and go back and gain like 10 levels and come back, and it wouldn't make a difference. They are unfair boss fights because you deal such pitiful damage. Like, I get it. Aim for the weak spot. But because you do so little damage, no matter what level you are or what weapon you have equipped, what's even the point of attacking their other hit zones other than their weak spot? And even when you attack their weak spot, you still barely do any damage. And I know what you're saying. Oh, you're supposed to send your Spectrobe in to do the fighting for you. Okay, okay, your Spectrobe is not going to attack their weak spot because half the time they can't even reach it because the boss is just going to run away to the other side of the arena. You can't even get to their weak spot.
Sounds like a skill issue.
The boss fight on the desert planet, the like sand crab looking thing, he would just burrow underground for the entire boss fight, stick his head out to attack for like a millisecond far away from where you are, and then dive back in. I spent an hour on that boss because I couldn't fucking hit him. He would just run away. And he wasn't the only boss to do that. The fire dragon boss, same thing. He would just get up and fly away and I couldn't hit him. Oh, equip the blaster. That does like 4 points of damage. Yeah, good fucking luck killing a boss like that. Oh yeah, and the bosses deal so much damage to you, they can effectively two-shot you if you don't have enough healing rice balls. Your Spectrobes, if they're not the right type of element, they're just gonna get one shot. Oh, build up your super attack? Well, too bad if you miss your super attack because the boss is always running away from you. Well, you just wasted your super attack.
Well, you see, here's the thing with that dragon dude, it's really important to make sure you have ranged Spectrobes on your team, and also it's better to make sure for each area you have a plethora of their weaknesses and not just like every single type in your team.
Either way, the boss fights were horrible and I hated them. I hated the boss fights and they're boring. They're boring boss fights. They're all you do, hit the weak spot. That's it. There's no variety. There's nothing to it. It's run up, hit the weak spots. Okay, they're gonna one-shot you again. Oh, what's that? You're gonna run away to the other side of the arena a mile away where I can't hit you, and you're gonna fire a fireball at me that takes away half my health. Oh, I don't have any rice balls because they're so fucking hard to find on this planet, so I have to go back and go all the way back to like Terra, the beginning area, just to grind up health packs because you can't find them anywhere else, and it's completely random if your Spectrobe is gonna dig them up. Oh, all your Spectrobes are dead because they all got one-shotted by this enemy that... Oh, and you have to stop and pause mid-fight to command your Spectrobe to keep attacking. You stop moving to do that. So now the boss fight is just going to get a free hit on you because you stop moving. Oh, what's that? You're saying raise your shield up to block the incoming attack? Oh, it's bullshit motion controls.
Dude, okay, so... Chase, too much, Chase!
I hated the boss fights in this game.
So you're saying you struggled with the second boss, Drillson?
No. The first two bosses I was able to defeat pretty quickly. It was with the third boss, the Ice World boss. From that point on, that's when the problems started. And when I got to the desert boss fight...
No, I admit, the desert one...
Ooh, that desert boss.
The desert one is so bullshit. There are 3 bosses that I find to be the most difficult bosses in the game. Not necessarily the desert boss. He wasn't really necessarily difficult for me, just annoying. But the 2 most difficult was... Jado, which was the fake Crux guy, which you have to go back to Reterra to fight, and then Crux. I am so looking forward to you when you finally reach the point and you gotta fight them yourself, and just hearing you complain about how stupidly difficult those bosses are. Especially Crux.
Anyway, how about that guitar solo on the title screen, though? That was a really kick-ass theme song.
You can't just go do guitar solo after like a 10-minute rant about the bosses.
Anyway,
went on.
Garrett, what was your opinion on the music, Garrett? What was some of your favorite tracks? I really like the music on Terra. Honestly, the music in general had just this very kind of zen vibe to it. Very easy listening music.
It's hard to really pinpoint a music track that I genuinely enjoy, but I guess if I had to say one, I guess it would have to be, I think it's like the game room or something like that. It's just like the safe room or something.
I'll agree though, like the Terra, especially in like that main town area, is very relaxing and soothing. But I mean, the game does have a really nice soundtrack overall.
Yeah, even the combat music, it still has this, like, relaxing vibe to it.
The battle music's, like, again, like you said, a bit more relaxing side, but it's also, like, amped up enough where it's, like, it's, like, this is battle time. But it's not like the type of battle music where it's, like, suddenly you're stressed feeling now. Except the boss battles. That music gets a little bit more, like, on the nerve-wracking side with how it sounds.
A little bit, yeah. Oh yeah, what were some of your favorite weapons to equip? There was one sword I found called the Pepe sword, And when I read that, I'm like, yeah, I'm sticking with this sword.
Yeah, I mean, that was, like, of course, way before, like, Pepe was a meme.
Right, right.
It's like...
Regardless of what Pepe has done in the years since then, you know, back then, we still liked Pepe.
Yeah.
I like this music. It's very grown up.
What are you listening to? Oi, 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 you got a license for that there.
Oh, yeah, here's the license right here.
12 droppings or else to the tin penny with you. Apologies to our British listeners out there. Also, shout out to our one listener in Australia. You know who you are, and we appreciate you.
Woo!
We appreciate all of you, especially you.
And you. And you.
But when it comes to the weapons, do you remember that kind of like more sassy type of like feline like Spectre you get like during Wheatera? That's like yellow and has like that bit of purple like accents to it. That one has, because each like weapon that you get later on, almost all of them kind of like are supposed to kind of go along with another Spectrobe. They share the same kind of name or whatever. And that one's sword I like the most because it had the highest attack speed out of all the weapons, from what I remember.
I mostly stuck with the sword because, like I said, the swords are very fast and they deal pretty high amounts of damage.
Yeah.
Axes and lances deal more damage, but the wind-up for them is so slow, it just leaves you vulnerable. Like I said earlier, there are certain Krawl enemies that you have to use them on because your sword won't damage them.
Yeah, so you have to, like, break them out of their defensive thing and then power through them.
I wanted to like blasters more than I did because they're really fun to use, but they just deal such pitiful low damage that there's just no reason to use a blaster. They're just so weak, even though they're so cool and so fun to fire.
Yeah, they really suck in the end. I think the only one I really used them on was that fire boss, Bahamut, because, again, he was never in attack range for melee.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so Jeena's a filthy capitalist. When you go to the desert planet and you talk to the factory workers that are on that planet, let's talk about this plot line real here because there is some truth about capitalism and industrialization.
This is like the deepest and most like thought-provoking like plot in the entire like game too.
The owner of the factory is like, he's just this total asshole who blatantly disregards the lives and well-beings of his worker for profit.
Jeff Bezos.
And Rallen's like, how can someone do that? And Jeena, and later on when the Crux boss attacks and Rallen's like, we have to evacuate the workers, Jeena is just like, nah, it's their fault for choosing to work for that asshole. Let's leave him to die.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yo, Jeena, you're blaming the blue collar. She hates the working class right there. That is classist shit right there, Jeena.
We need to have intervention.
She's very cold-hearted.
It's their fault for being born poor.
And also, it's during, like, that planet, too, you get the most comedy relief characters. Of course, Neil, the adventurer, but then you get those two, like, worker dudes who are always off to mischief. Or is it three of them?
There's three of them. It's a Three Stooges skit with them, but I like the short guy's design. He's got that really cool Ace from One Piece cowboy hat on with the goggles, and he's got the red scarf draped around him, very man with no name. Yeah, I liked his design.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the CEO, he just really does not give a shit about his workers, but hey, he's a CEO factory owner. Color me shocked.
Yeah.
Why do we build the wall? My children, my children.
But also, like, Chase, like, off from, like, the episode part, like, feel free to cut out, like, my joking, like, Jeff Bezos remark.
Why not? The truth has to be said. Why are you trying to silence the truth?
I don't know. Some people don't like to put anything like that into their stuff.
Garrett, save us. Garrett, talk about magic cards.
Okay, guys, so in CEDH, they got stuff, cool stuff, magical stuff, lands, real estate stuff.
Wow, riveting content. Thank you, Garrett.
So, Garrett, what's your favorite color of magic? Are you blue? Are you white? What are you?
I'm a red, baby, all the way red.
Of course
I love
you are.
burning through stuff. What?
I'm a pretty casual Magic player. Used to play a lot back in college with you, Garrett, but I just can't really find people to play with these days. But back in the day, I was
used to play college Magic, until I graduated.
Could have gone pro if I hadn't gotten my ass handed to me by a red player at my first tournament who just 2 rounds in, he's like, just so you know, I've already won. You're already dead. You just don't know it yet.
I always played like a mixed deck of like blue and black.
Blue and black are viable.
Yeah, and I would always and I used to do like a lot of like online tournaments too.
So I play Commander, and I really enjoy like competitive Commander. They refer to it as CEDH. I will say, like you saying blue and black, there's this combo that is literally so broken and so fun to play, but it's also so fun to it's kind of like a one-shot drop. This creature comes in, enters the battlefield. It looks at your library. If you scry more, scry is like looking at the top card. If you scry more cards than you have in your library, you win the game. You play that, and then with that enter the battlefield on deck, you cast a spell that literally takes away your library, and you win on the spot right there. That's how dumb it is.
What's your favorite commander?
Right now it's Cyrus, just because he's fun.
Yeah, mine would have to be the Ur-Dragon. I love the Ur-Dragon.
What's the biggest dick move you've ever pulled in a Magic game? Ooh. Mine would have to be, so this was like a friend of mine, so I didn't know him that well, but he was a beginner at Magic. He just summoned all these really cool dinosaur cards, and he was really proud of like, look at all my army of dinosaurs. I'm gonna kick your ass, Chase. And then I just pulled out this like meteor card that just wiped the entire board clean. When he realized he had spent like the last 15 rounds for nothing, his soul just died. I saw it in his eyes, and I felt so bad for doing that. But
that is very brutal, Chase, I will say.
I had to do it to him. He disrespected me in my own home. Well, it was my cousin's place, but still.
So there was this one time, basically I played another CEH, not really tournament, just at my local game store. And a guy tapped and sacrificed a land to like go search a land. Well, with that on the stack, we refer to the stack as like abilities that are in the middle of resolving. So with that in the middle of resolving, I cast an opposition agent. Opposition agent says whenever an opponent is searching their library, you search their library instead, and whatever you find, you exile under opposition agent. And that was his first land. So basically, he had no lands and it was turn 2. That's about as brutal as I've gotten.
Do you like to drown puppies while you're out and about too?
I think the most cruel thing I've done in Magic the Gathering is I used to go against my younger cousin all the time in Magic, and he could never beat me.
Oh.
And there was one point, I let him think he was going to beat me, and I had a card, I forget exactly what it was called, but it negates all damage done that point, and I could cast at any point. So he goes to attack, and I just play it, and I'm just like, yeah, no. And he had all flying, like, creatures that was gonna, like, knock me down, like, my final few hit points. And then I just negate all that damage, and it becomes my turn, and I'm finally able to do my proper attack, and I just kill him that next turn. I took all of his hope and dreams of finally beating me, and flushed them down the toilet.
Oh, no.
I was cruel.
Poor dude.
Do you guys ever look at yourself in the mirror and think, am I the villain in someone else's story?
Every day. Actually, no, I don't think that every day. I wake up, I'm like, yep, that's me.
But I will say my favorite color combination is Boros, which is red and white. I do like blue. I do like black. It's just, I don't know, with red and white, it has so many different things in terms of what I can kind of break. And I love breaking red. Red, I think, is I feel like it's so much more powerful than people give it. Like, in CEH, it's really powerful, but in casual play, it's not seen as powerful, and I'm hoping to change that.
Change starts with a single step.
Also, there's another thing that I did once. Are you familiar with Archangel's Light?
Archangel's Light? Like, is that a deck?
It is a card. I think it's just Archangel's Light.
Okay. Well, what does it do?
So, if it's exactly what I think it is, it's a white card, and you gain 2 life for each card in your graveyard, then shuffle your graveyard into your library.
That's pretty awesome for a life gain deck.
It costs 8 mana.
8 mana?
Yeah, but when you're late game, that doesn't fucking matter, because I built decks where I could have a ton of mana at once. And this was my most powerful deck, which was mostly an Angels / like Seraphim based deck. And my cousin hated it whenever I played that card because like he would finally get me down. I'd just play that and I would gain a crap ton of health back because it's late game. It's also like a good counter towards, what are those decks called that like, drain your library?
Mill?
Yeah, it's a good counter to like milling decks.
Unless I exile it first.
All I got is this lame card, Black Lotus. All it does is give me 3 mana.
Which is also really powerful.
You can't play it in most formats. Jeez. It's not really that broken. It's so trash.
I should just tear it up right now.
The One Ring is supposed to be like, there's apparently a bounty for like 10 million, I think, for it through Wizards of the Coast.
The One Ring, the 1 of 1, sold to Post Malone for $2.6 million.
If I had the money to spend on nerd shit like that, I wish.
Yeah.
I would buy a golden frying pan in Team Fortress 2 if that was the case.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you do. That's how you get it, baby.
Alright, what were we talking about again? What was this episode about?
Thank you for joining us on our magic episode.
Whoa, Spectrome!
Anyway, where were we? Spectrobes. Zaid, talk about Spectrobes more.
Alright, so I guess we can continue with the story. Of course, you finish Terry, go to Delgado, meet the people there. And also, like, after every single boss battle in this game, you get, like, a new Spectrobe that you'll find on, like, the next planet. And it's, like, this really cool, just unique one that you haven't found. It's like, oh, cool, what's the next Spectrobe gonna be? Plus, it's always followed up by whenever you touch it, you get to see, like, its memories. And they're always, like, a Spectrobe that, the last Spectrobe Master, aka younger Crux, had back in the, during his time there with Commander Grant, and you get to see those flashbacks. Of course, you follow up going to Kogiria and Ice World and all that other crap.
That's where you meet Camtoga, who used to be friends with Grant and Crux back in the day.
Who was also a character I did enjoy. He was a fun guy.
Yeah, I like how he's the tough dad archetype. He's the Sid of Spectrobes.
Yes.
When you were a kid, did you actually think he died at the end with that fake-out death?
Yes, I did.
Again, Yuri Lowenthal as Rallen, when he saw what happened to Camtoga at the end and you think he's dead, that scream he let out, like, wow, that is a good performance right there.
Also, wasn't like the original idea of going to Delgado was to like find Camtoga?
Right, and then it turns out your Camtoga's in another planet.
I'm sorry, but the Camtoga's in another castle.
Then there's Menahat, the desert planet, where you gotta dredge up all the sunken temples that are buried out in the desert underneath the sand. I thought that was really fun.
That one and Saleso are two of the most unique planets because that one has its old ancient ruins and all that stuff, which was very unique from everything else of having to dig those up. And then, of course, Saleso being the next one with the huge tower with the weird spider satellite.
I really like Sliso as well, like you said, because it's just one big tower. It's a gauntlet run where you have to keep going up each floor, and maybe it's because I grew up playing Wizard 101, and if you guys ever played that game,
yeah,
there were dungeon towers that were basically that same layout. You clear a room, you move on to the next floor. So something about that has always stuck in my mind as just very satisfying when you clear a floor and you move up, especially when you can leave and come back and all the enemies stay defeated. It's like you're making visible progress through this tower.
I think it's a planet with the most amount of puzzles, too, outside of Manahat. Those two planets had a lot of puzzles.
The one in the desert temple where you have to wait for, like, the wall to rotate so you can walk across it, that's always very fun. That's a fun type of puzzle.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
I do like the puzzles where you have to send your baby Spectrobe out and you can control them to, like, crawl through a tunnel to flip a switch or press a button or whatever. I like the little music that plays. It's very 60s, 70s beach rock kind of music. Like, it sounds like something that would have been in a SpongeBob episode, like that type of vibe.
It's really fun, but it's also like, yeah, we're doing some serious shit now. Let's go. And then they'd have this tiny little waddle, too, and it's so adorable.
Oh, yeah, this music is going hardcore, and it's just this koala lion dog just waddling through a ditch.
Let's go.
You probably know this, but you could speed up your running speed by holding down the B button on the Wii nunchuck to make him go faster.
I didn't know that as a kid. I didn't learn that until, like, I played it, like, more recently, like a year ago.
Yeah. I found that out on accident when I accidentally, like, pressed the button and the Spectrobe ran just a bit faster, and I'm like, holy shit, that saves so much time.
And of course, like, after, like, Saleso, you got Bahamut, which, of course, having, like, one of the worst bosses, if not the worst boss, in my opinion. Also, like, one of my least favorite of the planets, too. It's not really a planet, it's more just like this flaming volcanic asteroid.
It's the Mustafar of Spectrobes. It's just this volcano planet where everything's on fire.
Yeah. I think it was like either after Saleso or Bahamut, you then go back to like Witera to fight Jago, but of course like all this stuff is to lead up to summoning the ultimate form Spectrobe, like essentially God, I guess.
Blue Eyes White Dragon.
Yeah. Of course, after defeating Jago, you summon it for the first time, and I will say, I love its design. It's really cool, though.
I do like how Crux, he pulls a Sephiroth / Madara by summoning a Krawl meteor to wipe out the solar system. That's his endgame plan.
Yeah, the Krawl sphere.
Yeah, the Krawlosphere.
Which is the last thing you go on. You eventually just, like, fly to that, and it's really all the Krawl sphere is this long set of tunnels where every time you go into a tunnel, there's, like, a battle there. But here's the thing. The battles you don't ever repeat. Also, there's no minerals there from what I remember. All the sparkles are just purple, and so they're only battles. But after each battle, it's like supposed to like make it harder for you because you gotta go through all these battles for getting the boss. You can literally just go back to a save point and quickly heal and continue on. And then you finally reach Crux, where he has like the ultimate Krawl form or whatever, which is like the heart of the Krawlosphere. So you gotta fight that thing while also fighting Crux, who is just ridiculously overpowered boss that I honestly took way too long to beat. It took me like 15 tries as a kid.
Definitely some real like Ansem at the end of the first Kingdom Hearts game energy right there. It's very similar.
Yeah. When I go for difficulty, to me, it's like similar type of difficulty to fighting Sephiroth in the Kingdom Hearts game. I think it was Kingdom Hearts 2 when you find him in that like ice area.
I found it funny where after you defeat Crux and it shows that like brief defeat cutscene that's only a few seconds long where he collapses and then just blinks out of existence before the actual cutscene plays. For a second there, I just thought Crux was like, I'm a head out now, deuces, and he just disappears.
Yeah, see it.
No, it turns out he just gets thrown into the sun core.
I mean, you also eventually end up seeing his face as his mask like falls off too.
Mm-hmm. And he has the whole Two-Face dilemma going on where half his face is normal, but the other half has been corrupted by the Krawl. Yeah, it's a pretty standard villain design, but I'm just a sucker for that whole aesthetic, that facial juxtaposition.
I will say, though, I feel like Crux is probably the best written character in the entire thing. He has so much more depth to him than any of the other characters. Because he starts off as like this like Spectrobe like master, and then he starts like experimenting like as a mad scientist with the Krawl stuff, seeing what happens, and just leads down this darker road of madness. I forget what his main goal in the end of what he was truly trying to like do, or if he just got like full on corrupted or something.
Yeah, you do raise a point that he does have actual good motivation and an actual character arc that most of it is revealed to you via flashback, but he starts off as this really peaceful guy. He's this hero of the people who commands the Spectrobes for good, but then he becomes infatuated with the Krawl, and then he decides we can harness the power of the Krawl and bring peace to the galaxy. And Commander Grant is just like, okay guys, red flag, red flag.
He wanted to bring peace, but he did it. He kind of got corrupted over time through other various means.
I am become Krawlosphere, the destroyer of worlds.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if at the end he still had that intention, or if he literally just kind of got too taken over and just had to destroy everything.
Well, you know what they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I think that the story of Crux is a moral that we should all take to heart.
Should the ends justify the means, or should the means justify the ends?
The people who claim that they are going for good purposes and motivations may be the most corrupt out of all of us. So let that be a lesson, kids. Never be good again. You want to misbehave? Go ahead. Raise anarchy. Tear down the walls of society.
Down,
or just swear in front of your...
Calm down.
Bro has been going on tangents today.
I mean, the cutscenes, though, in the game were very enjoyable, too. Like, the flashbacks, and also the more action-packed, like, cutscenes were really nice.
The fully rendered cutscenes, in typical game fashion, there's only a handful of them because those definitely required a lot more time and resources. But for what this game is and the budget they had...
I think with the right writers and animators and the correct studio, I think it would be a great, like, just show to watch and animate.
Oh yeah, I could have definitely seen this playing on like Disney Channel. Well, I say Disney Channel, but if I'm being honest, probably something like Cartoon Network back in the day.
This is a little bit more edgy for like a Disney Channel, I feel like.
Yeah, I feel like Disney didn't really do a whole lot of action shows. Like, well, at least at the time. I know they had stuff like Gargoyles and whatnot, which is really awesome, but by the late 2000s, they hadn't really done anything like that.
But yeah, like, I think this would have made like a great show to watch.
Yeah, this would have been a great, like, Saturday morning kids action show, you know? Would have been up there with, like, Ben 10 or Generator Rex or Secret Saturdays. Does anyone remember that show?
I don't remember that one.
No one remembers the Secret Saturdays, but I know it was real. I didn't hallucinate that show. It existed.
Yes, it does exist. I promise you. I watched it.
I remember the Owlman episode, really, that gave me nightmares when I first saw it.
Yeah, dude.
The thing is just so freaky looking.
Yo, stop staring at me.
I remember the trailers, the commercials that Cartoon Network used to run to promote the show leading up to its release. They were like live action found footage things of like kids playing around, and they would be attacked or see these like weird cryptids and stuff. I remember watching one of them where it's this mom like recording her toddler son in the back of the car as they're driving down the street. And she's like, wave to the camera, son, hi. And then for like a split second, this like Bigfoot thing comes up to the window. It's Fiskerton, one of the characters from the show. But first time I saw that as a kid, I had no idea it was meant to promote this cryptid cartoon that was coming up. So I'm just like, the hell was that?
You know, another thing that looking at the wiki real quick that I realized is that the first like town's like village's name is very fitting with how like calming and nice the music is. It's Haven Village. So it's like it's a very fitting name for the music that goes along with it.
Yeah, Wee Terra is just, it's not an island, like it's in the middle of this mountainous valley, but it has like an island vibe to it, you know what I mean? It's very tropical, everyone's laid back and taking it easy.
But I mean, another thing too is like, it's definitely like a very familiar feel to it since like it is a planet that's very much definitely modeled after Earth. Because you just have like these expansive oceans when looking at the planet from far away with continents all over it. Which just makes it fitting to be like the first one because it's something familiar, something to ease us into it.
I mean, they can just pull a Star Wars and have us start on the desert planet. Holy shit, is that a tree?
I never seen one of those before.
Alright, I think we're winding down here. Any finishing thoughts on Spectrobe's origins while we're here?
What I'd say is like, it may not be the most spectacular game in the world by any means, but I do hold a very special place in my heart for it, and I believe like it is a game that's fun enough and worth checking out for anyone who has a Wii or plans on like getting one to play old Wii games or something like that. It is definitely worth checking out. That's if you can get your hand on it because it is kind of hard to find.
It is a solid enough RPG hack and slash game. It's not anything mind-blowing, especially by today's standards, but if you have a Wii that you want to dust off and check out a game you've never played before, you can do worse than Spectrobes. I was vibing with this game pretty well. It's a fun game, alright? I enjoyed my time with it.
Besides the boss fights.
Aside from the boss fights.
Just wait until Crux.
Yeah, look. Take out the boss fights, you got a pretty solid game on your hands here with Spectrobe's Origins.
I could see like a good remaster of this game would be amazing too.
Maybe if Disney wants to brush off some old video game IP. I know Disney Interactive Studios isn't really around anymore, but if Disney wants to, you know, reboot a old gaming IP of theirs, Spectrobes, I wouldn't say no.
Release it on the Switch, or what I've heard is like they're coming out with like another Switch, I think, or at least Nintendo's coming out with a new console sometime.
My prediction is end of next year is when the next Nintendo console is going to release. That's my personal prediction, but that's what a lot of people are predicting, so.
Yeah, like, I'd love to see a remaster of this game, like the bosses redone a bit, or something like, not even a remaster, or a full-on remake, where it's the same type of game, but just fix what was wrong with it. And also, not to mention, the other games have their own Spectrobes too. Some of the same, a bunch of the same ones, but also ones that don't show up in this game. And I think, like, a game that has, like, all the Spectrobes and, like, in it, and maybe some new ones too, that would be great as well. But I think, like, this game would be a game that I'd love, like, if I still have a functioning Wii and the copy of the game, like, in the future, like, if I ever have kids, like, show them this game. Here you go.
Hey, here you go, kids. I'm gonna give you something from my old time.
I'm not grandpa, I'm talking about when I have kids. Jeez, I'm not gonna be in my 70s.
Oh, I thought you were gonna be like 70 years old, handing them the Wii remote with shaky arms.
Do you think there will be any functioning Wiis when we're in our 70s?
Kids of the future are going to look at the nunchuck and be like, you have to use your hands? That's like a baby's toy.
That's like all consoles like in the future. It's like, you had to actually press buttons?
I had to sit down and just play my VR Plus. Oh, what's this? SAO?
We hook our games up to our veins and play it with our heartbeats. Don't you know that?
Yeah,
Full
you
dive.
just boot it up to 84 BPM if you want to fire, 83 if you want to walk.
Back in my day, we had these things called memory cards. You had to bring them to your friend's house or else you had to start the whole game over.
Yes, okay, Grandpa. Let's go take your morning pills.
If you turned your PS2 on and it was on that starting screen longer than just a few seconds, I just knew like, oh shit, here we go again.
That reminds me of playing Skyrim as well, because like back in like playing Skyrim, you'd eventually like go into these loading screens that would never end because apparently the game would run out of memory and it would just be like, that was the issue. Even on modern PCs, you still got that issue because because they never expanded the memory amount for that game, even for PC, and you can't do that yourself either.
I can tell you that PS2, though, is one of those that's very dear to my heart as it's my first ever gaming console. And really, you saying all these things about my old PS2, I just cleaned the disc. That's it. And it worked.
I could literally go down to like Family Video and they would actually resurface my discs for me with their disc resurfacer.
I will say this, though. The all-digital future of gaming, I am not one for. I am a physical person. If I can buy a game physically, I will. Yes, I have a PC, and I love it dearly, but I do love my consoles as well. I love my PS5, I love my Switch, I love all my older retro consoles, but I just appreciate having physical games, you know? My problem with digital only is I feel like that's just given too much power and control to the corporation, man. You don't own a digital game. You're just borrowing it from
I agree too. It's
man.
like, especially because like Blizzard, like if they detect you cheating, even if it's like bullshit, they will revoke your license to that game. And then you have to rebuy it, which is complete bullshit. I mean, it's like, even if it's like a single player game, it's like, no, you can't have this anymore.
Blizzard's quite the character, I will say that. Like, recently, they haven't done really good choices.
Yeah.
I mean, they're owned by Microsoft now. So...
Another thing, too, about, like, digital copies now, it's like, this has gotten even worse, like, nowadays, is the fact games have gotten so big where even a terabyte is nothing. Like, you can store, like, 10 games now. Not even 10 games, like, maybe 6 or 7, because you need that extra headroom. And it's ridiculous.
I remember a terabyte, it was like, you could have like 40 plus games downloaded at a time.
Yeah, and where now you can barely hold any games on a single terabyte, and the cost of drives has not gone down enough, nor has the capacity of drives gone up enough to match how big games are getting and how fast it's happening.
Do you guys remember back when the Xbox One and PS4 first came out, Sony put out that commercial that was like, here's how you can trade your PS4 games with a friend. Here you go. Thanks.
Yeah, I remember that. That was so awesome.
It was such a dunk on Xbox at the time.
Yeah, and there's also the whole, like, dumb thing with, like, those consoles, too, especially, like, with Xbox. I'm not sure exactly how it was with PlayStation, but you could, like, put a disc in, but you still had to download the fucking game. And I think part of it, too, is that, like, games are getting too big for discs as well. But then you go back even further to, like, the 360. Like, you have, like, the 250 gig version of it, and that was enough. That was plenty of storage. I had a bunch of games on that 250 gigs, and then on top of that, like, I'd have a bunch of disc games, too, because I don't need storage outside of for my save files.
I know gaming has always been a business at the end of the day. Corporations have always had their control over it, but I just feel like they're not even trying to hide it anymore. I just feel like, I don't know, nowadays it's just so corporatized. And I know it's always been like that. What, you think Nintendo back in like the 90s was doing this out of the goodness of their hearts? I know it's, at the end of the day, it's all a corporate business, but I just feel like, I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me, and it makes me concerned about the future from a consumer standpoint.
Yeah.
It's worse when it comes to whole console side of things, of course, but also like video games. Of course, you got those people who are still doing it for the passion of it, and games games definitely back in the day, because it wasn't as much of a career as it is now, there was a lot more passion, I feel like, driven, where now so many games feel so soulless because, again, they're just milking a cow or beating a dead horse with a stick.
I think the passion's there from developers. The problem is the people running the companies don't want it. Like, look at all these indie games out there. There's the passion. There's the creativity. It's just not getting the attention and budget that all these AAA games are getting.
Well, I'm more talking about, like, the AAA title stuff, too. It's like, it doesn't feel like there's passion in it. I mean, even, like, there's been a lot of issues now with, like, Bungie and with Destiny 2. Like, they're not doing much with it. They're literally just coming out with customizations for the game while barely putting any effort into the actual, like, new dungeons or new content, and it's pissing off a lot of people.
Yeah, all right. I feel like we need to wrap this up. We are becoming the three old men who are just complaining about the good old days and all that.
Yeah, I guess.
We've kind of lost the plot a while back there. So that was Spectrobes.
It was a great time.
Thank you for listening to us. We really appreciate it. If you want to contact us by sending an email, you can email us at backwardscompatiblepod@gmail.com, or you can leave us a review on your podcast listening platform of choice. We always love it when people stop in to say hi.
We very much appreciate your feedback, and we want to get to know you. Well, take care, y'all. My name is Garrett.
And I, Chase.
Honki Ikize!
Are you talking about Florida?
Exactly! We live in Florida. I am Florida, man.